Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's bonus, shall we? We kind of did like this group chat talking as I'm driving, and I knew I had the time. They didn't have a whole bunch of time, but they spent 45 minutes sharing their experience with me. And it does take place in Idaho, in Fremont County. There's a state park called Harriman State Park, and little areas in that area, horse ride outlook or overlook, and there's a reservoir out there. Back in 1992, husband and wife, they had kind of just met a few years before and got married. They really had a lot of same interests: horseback riding, nature, just being out in nature and enjoying each other's company. Now, in 92, they didn't have children yet. They were, trying to enjoy life before they had kids. They had planned to have kids. They had just bought in their first home. So they are out horseback riding. Now, the area that they were in, this Harriman State Park, horse ride overlook, is really notorious for horseback riding, obviously. And there are people who do make money renting out their horses for a couple of hours. The husband's family was well off, and he was fairly well off. So when he met his wife and realized that she loved horses but didn't have any and never owned any, he had bought her own horse and himself a horse so they could ride together. That was his marriage present to her. And I thought that was wicked, wicked sweet. I mean, great people. I had a blast talking to these people. They had been married for 35 years. So 92. They're planning a family, but they don't have kids yet. They're out horseback riding. And it's a beautiful, beautiful day. There's this little area where they were going called Henry's Fork. It's kind of by this area called Silver Lake. And they had parked in an area called Mesa Falls and horseback rode out that way. Now, when they had gotten up to this horse overlook area, horseback overlook. They kind of sat down, got off the horses, and they have these kind of couplers, I guess they're called. You put it on the front two legs of the horse. It doesn't trip them up, but it doesn't let them run too fast. It's a way of keeping them in the area. Now, they're just sitting, relaxing, talking, enjoying this beautiful, beautiful day. When all of a sudden, one of the horses kind of perks its head up and panics. The husband's kind of looking around. He's not armed. He's with his wife. They're horseback riding. Beautiful day. It's a summer's day. In an area where they've horseback rode before. So what would be the point of carrying a rifle, They kind of look at the area and they don't see anything. So they kind of get back and, sit back down, relax. The other horse now is kind of spooked. The husband then stands up and looks around, goes over to both horses, calms them down, and looks at his wife, says, "Hey, maybe they smell something in this area. Maybe, last night some coyotes came through, or, whatever. Let's go up a ways and, we'll sit somewhere else and relax." And, all right. So they get these coupling things off and they start heading up past this overlook area. Now, they don't ride for fairly too long. And they get to this area called Golden Lake. Now, there's a kind of outlet that releases water from the lake into another creek. The husband didn't really remember the creek's name. After looking at the area, I believe it was Thurman Creek or Thurman Creek. And so they had gotten to this area. It's an open area. There's dirt roads at the time. No major highways, just dirt road. And they're like, this is the perfect spot. Let's have our picnic here. Now, mind you, there are woods all around them. This is not a rural area. This is wooded area. And they get settled, situated. Now, everything's going smooth. The horses are calm. They couple the horses back up. And they kind of have their little picnic, what they were going to have back probably 45 minutes prior to. And they get done with their picnic and they're like, all right, which way should we go? Do you want to go? How long more do you want to spend? Do we want to go up past this lake here, go around it, because there's a lot of woods in that area and you can go through the woods with your horses and stuff. No, let's just head back. She's getting tired and he's like, all right, that's kind of weird. They've only been out for, 3 or 4 hours. She could go ride all day. He would be the one that usually got tired. So they start to head back. Now, instead of taking the way they took, they kind of cut through, this set of woods, this track of woods, and smooth, their day is going smooth. All of a sudden, as they're going, the horses start to really act a funny way. Not really bucking, but kind of looking around, making a lot of noise. And he can see that, her horse is acting really crazy compared to his horse. So he's like, hey, get down. Let's take a minute. We'll walk these guys out. Something's going on. I don't want you to fall and hurt yourself. Okay. So they get off the horse and they start to kind of walk through. And they see this kind of shadow through the trees. Immediately in the husband's mind, he's like, oh shit. This may be a bear. We may be stumbled upon a grizzly or a black bear. We are in northern Idaho. Yellowstone Range isn't too far from us. They've been known to travel in this area. He's like thinking, I don't have my rifle with me. I got to figure out, maybe this is why the horses are acting crazy. He kind of not yells to his wife, but, says, hey, there's something kind of trailing us over in the woods, to our immediate north. And so she's like, okay, what do you think it is? He's like, I think it's a bear because it looked pretty big. So she's like, should we get on the horses and ride out? He's starting to think maybe we should. If we do and a bear comes out, do not fall off. The horses will start acting crazier, but hold on. I know you're a decent rider. But still, she's only been riding for a couple of years as of this point. So he's in his head thinking, should I put her with me and, have my horse lead her horse out, have her on the back of my saddle with me, trying to make sure that she's okay. And as they start to think about what they're going to do, all of a sudden they hear this kind of roar followed by this, it was just this loud roar immediately followed by a long, drawn out growl. So the roar, and then it just faded into this growl. And out walks this bipedal wolf man, which they now know is a Dogman. This thing didn't bother to even approach them quadruped. It just walks out. Now, the horses are freaking out. The husband's got both leads in his hand. Her horse is acting more crazy. Leaps up and he lets go of both. He didn't really have a choice. It was, I'm going to get dragged. I don't know. They didn't have any kind of choice of what to do. The horses were acting crazy. They've got this Dogman coming at them, and it's walking. It's not running. It's walking. And the horses take off, and they're just standing in this wooded area. Like, what the hell are we going to do? They're probably an hour and 20 minutes outside of this horse ride overlook. About 2 hours and a half from their truck and trailer. They're out there. And she's gets closer to her husband. Her husband's yelling like, yeah, get out of here. Thinking, yell loud, be intimidating, what you would do with a bear. She's like thinking, should we climb a tree? And he said, I don't think that would have done much because it's got hands. Now, the Dogman's about 15, 20 feet from him. And they kind of looked at each other and pretty much thought that was the last moment they were going to see each other. That they were going to be attacked and they were going to die. And this Dogman drops down onto all fours and kind of walks right up very quickly to the woman. Growling, its hackles are up on its back. I mean, this thing's huge. He's 6'1", or was 6'1" back then. He's a funny guy. He's like, I was 6'1" back then. I'm about, 5'11" and a half with age. Nice guy. I mean, he's like in his head thinking, it's going to kill my wife. He's yelling and kind of charging at it. And it looks at him and growls. Now, at that point, they can see this monster like spot on. Its head comes up to, the guy's chest. If he's 6'1", that's a huge, huge creature. He said its head was probably, as big as his chest area. It was just this monstrous grayish black and white color. It looked very similar to a timber wolf picture. Those photos in the National Geographic calendars of timber wolves. He said it was so beautiful. They both said this thing was beautiful, but terrifying. And it had these just golden eyes that they seemed to be glowing, but they didn't think they were glowing. They believed they were so gold that they looked like they were glowing. And so when it looks at him and it growls and he can see its teeth and they're just friggin' huge. It had these purplish gums and its teeth were not white. They were, very yellowish and, obviously plaque buildup and stuff. It's a wild animal. It immediately, after it growls at him, turns and stares right at her. And it's maybe 2 feet from her. And it does this weird kind of look at her. And it smells her area, her chest area, her stomach area. And growls, smells again, growls, looks at her husband, looks at her, not at her eyes. But the Dogman, when it looked at him, it looked at his eyes. Looked back at her where he was smelling in this, her chest and stomach area. And it made this weird kind of face and this almost like submissive kind of whine. And backed up, growled one more time at him, looked at her stomach and chest area again, and took off the opposite way. So it went back the way it was coming. It had just come from. They're like, we got to get out of here. let's go. They start to jog, and they're trying to figure out what in God's name they had just seen. What was this thing? Why was it so focused on her? And they end up getting, jogging, running, walking for about 45 minutes, and they hear something off in the distance. And when he was holding the leads of the horses, he must have kind of tied them off. He doesn't remember tying them off. But there were their horses, and their leads were connected, and they were on one side of a tree. Each one was on, kind of like they had gotten wrapped around the tree by their leads. They looked at each other like, wow, miracle. They undid the lead, which, was easy. It was just a quick knot. They get on their horse and they leave. Of course, that night, they get home. When they get home, they, do their routine with their horses, cool them off and everything, and feed them and put them in the barn. And they go inside and they start to have, their dinner. They're really freaked out, talking like, what the hell was that thing? Like, and why was it focused on me? About a month goes by. They kind of didn't want to go horseback riding for a while, after that. A month goes by, and she finds out that she's pregnant. And she finds out that she's about 4 months pregnant at that point. So when they had their experience, she was about 2 to 3 months pregnant, 2.5, 3 months pregnant. Her kids, twins, fraternal twins, are 31 now, boy and a girl. And for the longest time, they didn't really think about why, but after years of kind of wondering what in the hell this thing was, what did it do this for, why, about 6-7 years ago, they had been watching this TV show. And of course they told their kids about the experience, and they really didn't believe them. But one night the son calls and says, turn on this channel, guys. I think what you guys saw back in, before we were born is on TV in Maine. And they turn on the TV, and it's a TV show about the Palmyra Dogman. And they watch the show a little, the show's probably half over, and that gives them a name to the creature they saw. Now, as time goes by, he starts to put things together, like this thing may not have attacked us because she was pregnant. And it smelled her hormones. Her hormones were different. And when it finally, because it looked confused. And this is his theory on this. He said it looked confused. It smelled her. It was smelling like her stomach and chest area. It wasn't going close, and it wasn't, it wasn't like in her area. But it was, and when it kind of first did that first smell, it looked at him. But then when it smelled her stomach and her chest area and the area one more time, is when it kind of made this weird face. It stopped baring its teeth at that point. The first kind of time was when he noticed the purple gums, the teeth. And then when it did it, the last smell is when it really kind of made this like real weird kind of facial expression. And he said it's kind of hard to explain because, we're talking about a wolf Dogman making facial expressions, but it made this odd facial expression and did that whine and stepped back and then took off. He, after talking to his wife about this and stuff, he thinks that maybe the confusion was the fraternal twins. That if it could smell that she was pregnant, the hormones and stuff, that maybe it made that strange face because it smelled two different sex. His son and his daughter. I'm not any kind of doctor, and I was like, yo, that's a really good theory. That's deep. That's some thinking. You really have thought about this, And obviously, 30-something years go by, you do think. They've shared the experience with a couple of their friends, and obviously their children. They only have the two. They never had any more kids after that. They have gone up to that area since and never seen that creature again. Never had any kind of sighting again. And, that is his theory, and she agrees with it. That maybe it didn't attack them because she was pregnant, and then it was trying to figure out why there was two different scents of two different sex of, the boy and the girl. And it immediately, and I was like, that really right there is some powerful stuff. And, so that's their experience out of Idaho. Which then led me to sharing the experience out of South Dakota with them. And the wife was like, my God, after I shared the South Dakota experience with them, which I will share in a second, the wife was like, my God, maybe these creatures do have some sort of soul. Maybe some of them do. For them to have compassion. And the South Dakota experience, because this encounter blew me away. But the South Dakota experience was this young girl, in her 20s, was in the Black Mountains hiking, and she had come across this coyote. It was a little larger than a coyote, but it looked like a coyote, and it was caught in a trap. It was caught in one of those paw traps, and she diehard, animal lover. She's like, I can't leave this thing here. It's trapped. it's going to die, you know. She's talking to this coyote, air quotes, and she's like, if I, open this trap, it's going to bite me. And she is showing she's pregnant. She was, had a little belly. And she's talking, soothing, and it eventually kind of lets her open and release the trap on its paw, which was kind of weird looking. But she really didn't kind of dwell on that. She was more, that's the thing. She didn't dwell on it because she was more worried about getting bit and worried about getting its, air quotes, paw out of the trap. But it was a very strange looking paw, very similar to a raccoon paw. It then takes off running the opposite way. So some time goes by, and she's now had her kid. She's got her baby in that front-loaded backpack where you can put it in. And she's in the same area hiking. And it's an easy hike. It's not a hard hike. It's just a walk, And she gets to this section of the mountain where it's kind of a steep wall. There's no more area to go. You stop and you turn around. Or you hike up or climb up, which she couldn't do because she obviously had her child with her. Well, all of a sudden, as she's getting ready to turn around, she hears this like really kind of evil sounding growl, this just terrifying sound. And she kind of looks up, and it's this just very strange looking canine-like creature coming down the hill, very violently coming at her. Now, seconds later, she in her head, she's like, my child and I, oh my God, I got to protect my child. And she starts kind of backing out, and she gets ready to turn and run. And as she turns, there's 3 dogmen standing right there. Now, the 3 that were there, the only similarity they had to the one coming off of this kind of cliffed area was that they had snouts, but the other one just really looked demonic. And these 3 kind of, move her aside, and the larger one goes towards this demonic one. The second largest kind of nudges her to go with the smaller one. And the 2 dogmen go and confront this demonic creature. And the smaller of the dogmen lead her out. They get to an area where she's safe. They can hear the conflict, the fight. They can tell that it's very violent. She can tell that it's a very violent altercation. And she's looking at this dogman going, this thing looks very familiar. And she looks at its paw or its hand, and she sees a scar. And she realizes at that point that was the dogman or the coyote that she had freed. But at that same time, it looked at its paw and pointed at her or at the baby and then her belly. And nudged her back to where her car was to get the hell out of there. And it ran towards its other 2 friends that were fighting this demonic dogman. I shared that immediately after they shared their experience with me. I was like, guys, I don't know how long you've been with the channel, but have you heard this experience? No, we have not. My God. And she says, they really do have compassion. They may have a soul. And I was like, I never really thought of it like that, but maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But then I got to thinking about Jesse and Jesse's child that was killed by the Dogman. And all these other, people, children that have been attacked by these creatures. So maybe it's only a select few. Maybe there are these demonic entities that come from a portal or are a creation from the fallen angels and man, or a creation of the fallen angels and animals. Who knows? But that's a very amazing topic to think about. And I tell you what, after having the conversation with those two, I thought about it for a while, and I was just like, that is absolutely insane. I've never really thought about them possibly having a conscience or a soul. And then maybe some don't. Those demonic ones, that was like the one coming off that cliff. But maybe there are the ones that do have the soul that went to go and fight that one that was coming off the cliff. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, a lot of weird... this one left me questioning, with more questions than anything. I have more questions right now than anything. And, man, I really do hope you guys, in the comment section, leave your opinion. I mean, because I maybe there are ones that have a soul and some sort of conscience, and maybe, like I just said, maybe the demonic ones, wherever they come from, a portal, or if they're children of the Nephilim or children of the fallen angels and are the Nephilim, because if you really think about St. Christopher from Canaan, supposedly he had a canine-like face and was 8 feet tall. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.